So this is it. I just sent out a note to all the principals I knew and said, does anyone have teachers who are knocking it out with the data notebooks, because we're ready at some grade levels to start doing it. And Ryan immediately gave me a couple of names and said, hey, let's have you guys come on over. So we're excited to hear what you got.
I'm Alex Helpingstein, I'm a kindergarten teacher.
I'm Nan Betry, 2nd grade.
I'm Gina Avery, and I'm also 2nd grade.
Brittany Fuchs, 2nd grade.
I'm Sarah Ackerman, 5th grade.
Paige Moxness, 5th grade. Jill Ryder, 5th grade.
Abby Howe, video recording, instructional coach.
And Michael Orr, principal.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I moved from kindergarten to 2nd grade this year, so I was using a similar system last year and then moved in with these gals, and they helped me put together some 2nd grade ideas as well. So I just keep all my kids in the same binder, although I have 2 binders because it gets really thick, so this is just half of my class. But what I found really motivating for them is to make their own graphs and keep their own data, and so they know what their goals are. And I was just looking at these this morning. I am graphing, I'm having the kids graph their reading fluency, although not everybody is doing reading fluency this year because a lot of my kids were already extremely fluent readers and didn't really need to graph that as much. But the ones who started not as fluent, I had them start graphing their data, and it really motivated them to practice and to, they kind of saw the purpose of, making a goal and working toward it. So this is just an example of a friend who started at 64 words per minute, and then after doing some graphing, got in his highest now is 102 words per minute. And it just, I don't know, there's something about graphing it yourself that kind of makes you want to compete with yourself. Maybe other people too. I don't ask them to share what their goals are or what their scores are, but they do anyway. And I think that's a motivating. That's just a motivating piece for them. I also have been keeping track of sight words and decodable words based on our weekly phonics skills in 2nd grade. And everyone's goal was to have an ongoing average of 85% or more. And so we tracked what our weekly unit score was, and then averaged them all out to see what our, every week what our running average was. And so they knew they had to practice those and do well when I quizzed them on those as well. At the beginning of the year, my Dibble's computation and problem-solving scores were something I had some concerns about, and so I put in some whole class interventions around computation and problem-solving, where we hit that really hard during Daily 3 and also during whole group instruction, and we also started graphing our Dibble's progress monitoring computation, which not everyone probably needed to, but a pretty good amount of kids needed to, so I just did it for the whole class so that no one would feel singled out. And so here's a graph of one friend's computation where he started the year off at 4 and is now all the way up to 20, and they know the goal is 16 for the end of the year, so we've been working toward that. Now at the beginning of the year, I just told them their goal was to get better every time. Let's increase our score every time. But towards the middle of the year, I started telling them, the goal for the end of the year is 16. And that's when they knew that by the end of the year they had to be at 16, they really, a lot of their scores or a lot of their graphs look like this, where they jumped up really high, really fast.
It's always interesting too, because on these graphs you always see right after winter break, because it's like they've had that break, they go down, and then it's like we have to get them back on track again anytime they have that break. So,
and it's been so helpful for me to teach with 2 teachers who had taught 2nd grade before, because when I saw at my scores at the beginning of the year, I was a little alarmed, and they're like, that's actually pretty typical for 2nd grade at the beginning of the year, and I'm like, I need to start working on problem solving right away, and they're like, really, you don't? Because they just need more experience with it, and by the time middle of the year rolls around, they're, they'll have more experience just naturally through the math curriculum, and you'll start seeing them, and it was true, so.
They panic
That's
at the
good.
beginning of the year when they see those hard problems on the Dibbles computation because they've not
They
had to
are
do that, and they
hard.
just look at that and they go,
And then the last thing I'm graphing is the concepts and applications, but I didn't start that until after winter break. But even just knowing that we were going to make a graph with their scores, I think motivated so many kids, and I saw this huge jump from just in 3 different tests, and because the goal at the end of the year is 33, and right now until I started doing this, I had very few kids who were going to be close to getting 33 at the end of the year. But like, here's a really smart, motivated student, and even she wasn't even close. She was at 14, but just making her own graph really motivated her, and she's all the way up to 28. That was a huge jump in just a few weeks' time. And I just think knowing that it's important and there's a goal and you have to reach the goal really motivates a lot of kids.
And so really those graphs, you're having the kids actually graph.
they graph
Yes.
it. My kids, I help them kind of know
Yes.
where to, because it's
I sit
hard
there, they do
because
the color. and-
we're still not to fractions.
Right.
So much, but in between and kind of knowing where, so I kind of, like, my graphs look, I'm sorry, mine look a little bit different. Sorry, Ian, are you done?
I am done.
Okay, you need to, but mine look a little bit different, and so they get really excited. This is fluency, so similar to Dibbles, but these go along with our reading passages every week and wonders, and it's just what do you call that? The one from the very beginning. I don't even know.
It's the,
It used to be in the workbook, and now we don't have the workbook anymore. Anyways, so I just write down, when I'm doing it, what unit it is, and then down here I write, words per minute in case for whatever reason we colored wrong or whatever, and then how many errors they had. And this has been really motivating for them as well. And then some of them do it by 5s, some of them do it by 10s because they're just so far, ahead. And so then, like on these friends, we always talk, like, you're already reading, 120 words per minute. So I don't expect you to be like up here anytime soon.
Right.
And so, we just talk about the progress, but I definitely agree. I mean, them doing it themselves is super motivating. So anyways, sorry to kind of keep jumping in.
you're good.
Their face just lights up when
They
they
get
make
really
a big
excited.
jump.
Yeah.
They think that's really cool.
And I'm kind of transitioning my brain. It's like, this is such a work in progress. And it will always be a work in progress. Like, I'm never going to be 100% happy with how I'm doing my data.
No, I totally
But-
chuckled about thinking about summer, because we're all, especially this time of year, we already start going, okay, what are we doing next?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How can we change the summer?
So I'm kind of changing the format. Like, I did have a binder for my fluency and a binder for my sight words, and now I'm kind of going to switch to more of how Alex does it, and like everything for each student is kind of together. And this is what I have right now, and this would be Claire's. It doesn't matter if it's Claire's. Anyways, but I have there, I do this during my daily 5 times. Sometimes I have to kind of catch up. I might pull them in the morning when they first get there, when they're doing some other things. And it's just the same thing as the high frequency. Sorry, that's my coffee. I'll spill it. It's an important part of
Don't get too far away.
Yeah. Watch it. Hal. Anyways, and then, so I have them, it's just the high frequency words and the phonics pattern that we are doing for that week. And it does spiral, so that's kind of nice. And then there's some sentences that I have them read also. And I kind of use the sentences almost like a mini running record. So I can say, ooh, they're making that mistake. And then I immediately go back. Now, of course, she didn't make any mistakes, but I'll go and I'll do a quick, super quick mini lesson with that child. Like, oh, remember, we're working on those word endings. You're not paying attention to the whole word. Remember, we read the whole word and we go over those skills right when I'm doing it. And it's not long, it's really quick right then, and then they go back and they fix it. So I just do that, and this would be for like all of Unit 4 and Wonders. And so I have all of those pages, we're not done, in there. I want to come up some way, I'm trying to brainstorm how I would track or graph or do some kind of visual for them with this, but we've debated on graphing high frequency words and phonics patterns because they start easier, and so their graph wouldn't, and then as they get harder, then they get harder, it would go down. So we've been playing with that. And then I have the fluency passages from Wonders that we track similar to how Brittany does it, and then I have their graph for that.
Is that almost
back.
like more like a checklist graph, like some of the
Right.
things that you had were more like you're getting
And
credit
so-
because you've got it, so that still
Right.
was.
And it's so
eating
different,
up.
like the skills, just how to track the skills, it's so differently. And I can see with fifth grade having, because I've taught all the things, but fifth grade, fluency, and then finding a way to do like a comprehension check or some sort of track and have a retail graph or something like that, adding that piece in or something to that extent. And then, so kind of the same, what I'm thinking, because I have a student teacher right now, so I have a lot of time to think and process and change. So I'm kind of going next year of thinking about adding in that goal piece. If they, as we're talking about this, what are your goals again? What are we going to work on once they get their goal? Check, adding to it. So having a goal sheet in there also for them that's kind of a moving target. The same kinds of pages that we have in here, but then also adding in a words to work on. So the words, the high frequency words or the phonics patterns that we're missing, they can write a list and rewrite them down so they can go in, access this and check and work during our word work time with Daily 5. Those can be some of the words that they're working on instead of working on words that they might already know. I'm going back and working on words that they don't have yet. And then having these pieces in here, the fluency passages and a graph. So I'm working on adding in that goal setting piece. We talk about our goals, but like having it like them having access to that at the same time. And then same thing with math. Using the Dibbles computation piece, but I'm trying to think of another resource that I could also use to track that.
Well,
So anyway.
ours are very similar, all three of ours,
Yeah.
so I won't bore you with the same information.
Right.
But, so this is what the kids look at every week and what we have them read, or every other week, or how often you want to do it. And what we were doing is I was having to make a copy for every single student and then writing on it. And it was a waste of paper. So, because I just would toss them. So I decided I would just take a picture on my iPad and then go through and, they missed that or they got that or whatever. And then just real quick erase it for the next student, and that way I don't have to make 900 copies every week of the same thing. So.
And you could, if there were concerns, because I'm thinking of that too, because then this is a lot of paper, and so then my brain goes, but I want that. Like doing a screenshot and sticking it on their seesaw in a folder, or making.
I was also thinking on the back, if there's something that they're struggling with, we're leaving off the ending of words, or we're really struggling with short A words or whatever. Just making a list of everything that they're struggling on, and then that kid, I know, okay, have we improved on these things or not? Just right on the back of their sheet. Last year we also did math as well. We ended up taking, like rocket math, the little sheets, and we used those for math facts just to kind of gauge where they were. But again, I hate the time piece of it, so I don't feel like I have the math part nailed down as well, just because I can't figure out what I like the best or what I feel like is the best for them,
And I think
to gauge their progress.
goals for this summer, as we're sitting on her porch, are going to be to kind of look at those, now that we have those essential standards and those charts.
Now that I have a porch.
Now that I have a porch, and I have a porch too. We're gonna rotate between porches. To kind of look at the standards, like the most important ones that they did, the tiered, I can't think of the word. You know what I'm talking about. The essential standards, that's it. And kind of based on that in math, see what we need to do.
Well, and maybe we can pull in, some of the sprints from
Is in the
Engage
sprints.
New York.
So it's a work in progress, and it will always be one, so.
I would just add, just really quickly, one of the other things I've done is written behavior on the back of here. And so if I have a kiddo that's struggling with blurting or something like that, when they come over to meet with me to go over the goal binder, I say, all right, the goal that we talked about, one of the things you're working on is blurting. How do you feel like that's going? And so then we'll just talk about it. And if they're doing a good job, I'll put like a plus mark next to it. Or if they're like, I'm still really having a tough time with that, I'll put a check mark and I'll say, okay, well, I'm gonna put a check mark. We talked about it. I know you're working on it, and our goal next time is to have a plus. So what does it need to look like in class to earn a plus on blurting, or being kind with your friends, or solving your own problems, or whatever it is? And so I just kind of keep that on the back here. And then the other thing, which you could easily make up a sheet to make it more formal, it's just, these are just things that I've added as, you know, your brain's working and you're like, oh, how can we do that? The other thing I do is I send an email right before summer starts to the parents talking about summer slide, that it's a real thing, and that your child is going to have learning loss if you don't do something. That I want them to have tons of time playing and having fun with other kids. But also, I think you explained it to me this way, if you learn Spanish and you take 3 months off from Spanish or 2 months off from Spanish, are you going to be as good at it when you go back? And so I kind of use that analogy with my parents, that your child still needs to read for 10 minutes every day. I'm sending home their data book, and this is a good place for you to go to make sure that they are keeping up on those skills. And then I also have some kids that will finish the year without having all of their sentences highlighted, or I add a few things on that would be beneficial. I add the first sheet of the first grade sight words to everyone's packet. And so I tell the parents that if you want to get a jump start, there's some sight words in there for you to work on, but certainly we would want to keep up on the skills that are included in there. And I think that gives them kind of a, I know some people send home summer packets. This for me is I'm not having to copy anything else. And then it also becomes a keepsake, because it's kind of a cute little, their kid colored this on the first week of kindergarten, and it kind of notates when they learn things. So anyway.
Writing down when they lose their teeth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Are other grade levels doing data notebooks yet, or not so much? I mean, everybody's kind of at a different spot.
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well,
I know that I know a couple first grade teachers do a nice job they keep data and they track, but I'm not sure if it's organized, any more organized. It's probably just as organized as ours. I mean, honestly, I don't know. We started, who else is doing the PLC notebooks? Is that you?
I think it's just us.
Because this is cool.
Yeah. And in kindergarten, everyone's using some version of this.
Okay.
They are involving their kids. Most of us are using this exact thing. But there are a few teachers that it's kind of time consuming for them to sit down and do that with every kid, and so they have chosen pieces that they think are most important, because everybody's at a different place, and just to give this to a teacher that joins your team and say you need to check all these things every month can be a little overwhelming. And so it's like, okay, this is the value that we see in kids tracking their own data. This is the results that we've seen from that, and they can look at my stack of I call them goal binders, even though they say data books, but you can go through my stack, and if that doesn't get you excited about kids tracking their own data, I don't know what will, because it's amazing the growth that they show when they know where they're at and know where they're trying to get to.